Miss Habiba Kahinde. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks. Really nice to see you guys again.
So without much ado, I want to welcome Camilla Nontra.
Yay!
Oh my goodness! I should come to you every day when I'm feeling when I need.
Correct. This is Sudan.
Wow.
Sudan. Believe it or not, Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt.
Interesting.
Begin to think in a Pan-African way because they now see that their conditions are not just about that local space, but the condition is linked to all of the other.
Hello. Good morning from San Diego. Good afternoon if you live on where my co-host and our guest for today live. Good afternoon if you live on the East Coast, and then good evening if you live in GMT time space. I will start by thanking God. By Him we live, we move, and have our being. We have another great show today. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a busy week. Busy
week. Well, today we have a special guest. Unfortunately, our co-host will not be able to make it. She's a little bit under the weather. We pray for you. For speedy recovery, our dear sister Kechi. And so our guest here is an entrepreneur, the founder of Naija Food Depot. He's also a podcaster. I'm going to let him talk a little bit about that. Well, I named this episode "Dream Big" because he's dreamed big and he started to do great things that a lot of people are afraid to do. We're going to talk about what caused him to do that and how he went beyond his fears to dream big. So without much ado, I want to welcome our brother Toju Fakankun.
Thank you. You did as well as could be expected there. Maybe even a little bit better, honestly. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that warm welcome. I really appreciate it. And when I saw the title, what was going to be Dream Big, it kind of hit me because the two things that you mentioned, the podcast and the business, are two things that are just completely outside of my personality. So yeah, exactly. So there are things that I definitely had to step outside myself, and it's not something that I would have seen myself doing maybe a year before either of them started. Like it would have been, I would have laughed you out of the room if you had suggested that I'd either one, have a podcast, or two, be running an online business. So yeah.
Wow. Hey, Kechi.
Hey. Yeah. Well, I want to get into it. So before the podcast, before the online grocery store, what were you doing? Where were you?
So I was just, along as Africans, along the lines of education leading to your profession, leading to retirement, along that line. And maybe at some point I'll return to it in some way, but it was biology degree, work at a pharmacy, try to get into pharmacy school, and then take it from there. Well, some things happened along the way that's like, okay, getting into pharmacy school isn't a given. So when that didn't happen, I had to pivot into something else. So I was odd jobs, looking for something that had a little bit of structure, but not too much, because I like to have room to breathe. So I guess people who knew me, realized like, okay, you have a lot of information in your head that most people don't even bother to look at. And it's like, okay, you should do something with all of this. Like, what are you going to do about it? And then the suggestion of a podcast came up, and I'm like, yeah, no. Like, have you met me before? like, can you imagine me talking? Like, what would I even say? And then the thing came up where it's like, yeah, but you've been talking for an hour and a half about why we drive on the left side of the road, not the right, or right side and not left. And like, oh, okay, I guess I see what you mean. But like, would anybody want to listen to it? And they're like, just do it. If they want to listen to it, they will find it. And that's that was kind of like the beginning of it. And then I thought about it for a bit, hesitated, and then I was like, you know what, maybe I'll actually give it a try at some point. And here we are 2 years later, and it's had some stops and starts, but I mean, the effort is there, the intent is there, and that's what it is.
And the name of it, just because we want to make sure that we're directing people to it, it's the Well Actually podcast. So tell the audience a little bit about what you discuss on the Well Actually podcast.
Okay, so first the name, the Well Actually podcast. So most people don't like being corrected right when they make the mistake, but that's a tendency of mine, because I don't like leaving a conversation with someone, and if I'm able to correct them, not even like correct them, just give them new information, like, oh, well, actually, what that actually is, or so it was just sort of like playing off of that. And what we discussed is media, art, sports, pop culture, a little bit of politics, some gender, sex, race, just how things in the world have to affect the plight of Black people in America and around the world. And there's some like intersections that you might not even be aware of, and we like try to point those out. And we're not like into propaganda or trying to tell people what to think. Mm-hmm. We just try to get people to think about things.
Wow, that's real smooth. I mean, you're a smooth interviewer. You seem like to have experience, and I'm guessing probably you have my personality, more laid back and don't like the cameras and stuff. But one thing my dear wife told me is she just sees it as like having a conversation on the phone. So just be yourself, just have that conversation, and you'll be all right. But when you remember that you're behind the cameras and and all that you try to put up in front, if you're not careful,
right?
And people could see you through that. How did you get over that?
So it's funny because the first, I want to say 15 episodes were me solo, and it's rewarding in the way like how a workout is rewarding. It's tough in the moment, but at the end of it, you feel like you've done something. But it went from rewarding to stressful very quickly, because I tend to overthink things a bit. And when it's just you solo, there's no time there's no grace for correcting yourself in the moment. So a lot of times you're remembering what you could have said differently, or correction or something you could have added after the fact. And so like the first 2-3 episodes, if I remembered something, I re-recorded the whole episode. Literally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So because I had nothing to draw from. It was just later on that I was like, you could let that go. And even if you're bent on giving a correction, you can do it at the beginning of the next episode. So I'm like, I'm not a newscaster. I'm not Brian Gumble. I'm not any of these like CNN guys. Like, while I strive to give correct information, like people aren't coming to me for like absolute information. They're coming for my take on the information.
Yeah.
So, but then when I started getting guests, it just started flowing more naturally, because it's a conversation. You can play off what they say, and based on the response you get from them, you can decide to like come up with new questions that you wouldn't have thought of on your own, or you have the opportunity to correct something that you said before that maybe you misspoke, or you just gave the wrong information. Or while they're talking, you have time to gather information, like typing, check something on Google real quick, or just, so it just made it easier. Also, it made the conversations and the episodes longer, but it's like a longer conversation, but yet editing and processing it was much easier. So it's like it was counterintuitive to what I thought initially, but then again, we learn by doing.
So you say that your podcast was something that was out of the norm for you. Could you describe what your personality is compared to your persona on the podcast?
Okay, so it's my persona on the podcast and my personality are pretty similar. It's just that putting that personality out there is not within my, like, I'm not one to be in the middle of the room trying to get attention or being the center of attention. I don't need to be the one leading conversations, unless maybe I'm with people that I'm extra comfortable with, and then it's like, okay, well, actually, this is start talking about baseball, and like, who else cares about baseball, or who has the most number of Grammy nominations or things like that. So this just came like that outlet for everything that I've been like, maybe I've learned or that nobody else would like have paid attention to. And but as for my persona, it's just someone who enjoys information and passing along that information, but instead of doing it in front of a crowd, you're talking to everybody at once.
That's right. So what got you started on the Naija Food Depot?
So that one is a funny story, because again, out of the norm. It when I tell people, they don't believe me when I say it started by accident. It legitimately started by accident. It's one of those happy accidents where, so my mom came to visit me from Nigeria, and she was like, I should take her somewhere that she wants to go buy some things. And normally I would grumble. I'd be like, I'm busy or I'm doing something. And I'm just like, sure, why not? Let's do this. Let's get it over with. Let's go ahead. So where she was going to buy the items was from the supplier who was supplying a store with the items. So she has a big personality. So she doesn't mind striking up a conversation with just about anybody at any time. So she had the conversation with the dude, and he said that he can buy it directly from her at the price he was giving to the store. And I'm like, what kind of come up is that? Like, just like out of nowhere. So I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll take you. So we get to the place, and it's an actual warehouse. It's not even a store. So that's how I know, okay, this is legit, like he's an actual supplier. So while she's deciding what she wants to get, me and him start talking, and he mentions like, oh, do you like, are these any of the things that you eat or whatever? I'm like, yeah, sure. There's a bunch of things. And it's like, have you ever thought about selling them? Like, selling them? Like, the last time I tried to sell something was on eBay, like 10, 15 years ago. And because I didn't even know how the fee structure worked, they were charging my bank account money to the point that the account got closed down. So I'm like, I'm not a businessman in any way. He's like, yeah, but you're not the same person you were 10, 15 years ago. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you have a point there. So he was like, yeah, grab a few things and let me know how it goes. And so I picked up like 6 items, like 6 different items, but like multiples of the items. And I was like, okay, I'll holler back at you in a week and see if this is even worth the effort. And basically that was 2 years ago. And now I was literally doing everything by text and WhatsApp. Yeah. Now there's like a website. I have like 60 different items now that are available. And that's because like 10 to 20 of them are out of stock. So it's like, it went from just 6 items by accident to 60 different items. And initially it was, yeah, thank you. So initially it was just like around New Jersey delivering to people. And then again, you learn by doing. And I had people in other states that were like, we want to patronize you. How can we do that? And I was like a little bit hesitant to like branch out. But now I've delivered to about 26 different states. Like I've delivered to you in California, delivered to a border town in Texas that the closest town to it is in Mexico.
Laredo?
Yeah.
Laredo?
Yes. So I've done to Texas, Florida, Minnesota, North Carolina. So we've out of nowhere, and a lot of these people are just been like referrals from other people. Like they haven't even seen my promotions or any of my posts. They were just referred by other people who are happy with what we did, and they passed it along. And first of all, I'm really thankful to those people because they didn't owe me anything. They just saw what we're doing and wanted to show support, and that's where we are right now.
So,
awesome.
Jesse, before you go, so to everyone watching, that's the website, NaijaFoodDepot.com. And if you're watching the show, 10% off, just use the keyword Pan Africana, and you're going to get 10% off your order.
And I think that's awesome. So I think everything about your story, kind of how you fell into entrepreneurship the second go around, that's incredible. And I think that you've been able to expand on that. I do want to give a special shout out to the people in Alaska and Hawaii who are watching this. Nobody told y'all to go out there. Yes. Nobody told
Jesse just on the throw shade.
He's not wrong though, because I really tried. I really tried to hook them up, and it's like sending like one bottle of water to Alaska costs you $50.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all are not going to pay $50 for shipping. So I'm like, you know what? I love
you.
I empathize with you, but you know, maybe when I get on that Amazon level, then I got you guys.
Yes.
Exactly. But Jesse, before you threw the shade, you're gonna say something. I know.
No, I was just celebrating because there are so many people who watch this show and they watch for different reasons. So one is, our goal is always to bridge the gap between the diaspora and bring everybody together because we're all one family ultimately anyway. But the other thing is to inspire people. So we have folks whose kids are watching, people who, say similar things to what you said. I'm not a businessman. I don't know how this is done. I don't do it. And to see somebody who, one, looks like you, and two, who is out here doing it and being successful, that's a powerful image. And unfortunately, it's not something that we pick up in our mainstream television sources. So I just wanted to celebrate the fact that you are doing it. I wanted to celebrate the fact, I'm big on creative ventures anyway, because I feel like one of the things that oftentimes get stripped of, particularly Black people here, I know for sure, but I don't know about overseas, is our creativity. It's like you don't get to be creative. You got to work, you got to pay your bills, you got to raise your kids, and then after that, you got to survive the police. You know what I'm saying? There's so much stuff that you have to do that creativity for so many of us kind of goes out the window, and we forget. And what happens is we're not creating. Someone else is taking our stories and replicating it and feeding it back to us on whatever network or streaming platform. So I love the fact that you are being creative and that you are doing something that you can actually enjoy and work at the same time. I wanted to ask you, because I know you're dealing with a variety of pop culture issues, TV and all that. So I saw the episode about the Met Gala, right? And about on the fashions. I just wanted to, for the people who haven't seen it, I just want to get your summarized take on what you think about Met Gala fashions in general.
So it's funny because the funny part is the fact that I can ask you which one, because I've actually done it. I've done 2 episodes featuring the Met Gala. Believe it or not, I don't know why, but I guess the most recent one was on the Met Gala, and the first season and I call it first season because that was the first time we had like any extended continuity of the episodes had something to do with the Met Gala. I believe that was the episode about Steve Harvey and Aisha Curry. So I'm not sure if it was that one or the current one, but either way, I don't get it. That is the bottom line of the Met Gala. I don't get it. I don't understand why it is considered high fashion. Mm-hmm. And I put that in quotes, high fashion. Some people I don't claim to be an expert in everything. In fact, I don't even claim to be an expert in anything. I just have a lot of opinions on things. And I'm like, this is how I see it. You might agree, you might disagree. But that is something I really don't get. Because I was like, oh, that looks good. And like, no, that's not on theme. And I'm like, okay, so what's the theme then? Like what do you mean? That's a perfectly good dress, or that's a perfectly good tux. Right. And they say, no, that's not the theme. And I'm wondering to myself, so are you supposed to look outlandish? Is that the point? And then they're like, yes. I'm like, oh,
Oh
okay.
my goodness.
Okay. All right. I get it. I get that I don't get it. That's my bottom line with it. But but again, you said you like creative expression, creative endeavors. So in a way, like that, fashion is sort of a creative endeavor for a lot of people. And I don't say that to like denigrate any of their work, because one thing that I have great respect for is things that I can't do. Like, and I know for a fact I cannot do 1/1,000,000th of like cutting clothes in a straight line is difficult for me. So talking about sewing it back together, designing, like, no, just, you see that all black suit, okay, that's good for me. And that's it. So it's like seeing what like their interpretation of, like, different people having different interpretations of the same theme lets you know that, like, even us, that we have two different shows, we might have the same goal, but we have different ways of going about it. So that's kind of like the roundabout way of saying, like, they're seeing something that I'm not, and this is their way of telling me what it is that they see.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting. See, I just always thought it was people flaunting their wealth. And for some reason, the rest of us are supposed to look and be in shock. What's funny is, I know when I was watching the updates or whatever, I miss Joan Rivers every time this stuff happens, because she used to like slaughter people. But I remember they were talking about AOC's dress. She had a dress that was made for her. I don't know the designer, but it said tax the rich, right? And I'm thinking to myself, how oxymoronic is it that you have a dress that's worth thousands of dollars?
So I'm very glad you brought that up, because again, like, when you're in the moment discussing it, there are a lot of things you forget. That was something that I wanted to address, because it is possible to criticize or critique a system from within the system. Because look at it, it's 3 weeks later, we're talking about it now.
Absolutely.
But there's another layer that we can't like forget when we're addressing it. The fact that the person who designed the dress is in a relationship with a billionaire or a heir to a billionaire fortune, and who conveniently or mysteriously, they've now come up with him having some tax evasion issues, or all of a sudden, all of a sudden that's coming out. And that's perfectly fine, because the statement "tax the rich" should not be a controversial statement.
Absolutely.
Like, it is as benign as saying "save the whales," or like it's the rich have more money, they should be taxed. It's not even saying tax them more, it's simply saying tax them. And but yet that is seen as such a divisive issue. Like, what do you mean tax the rich? Like, it's right there in the sentence, like, tax the rich, let them pay their fair share of taxes, and see how like the people who are like either at poverty level or slightly below will be raised up. Because I don't want to get into a whole economics thing here, but because there are people who still believe in trickle down economics, but that's another episode. But it's
economics.
So but it's the fact that something that benign can be seen as controversial. But but then the thing about words is it matters the context, and it matters who says them. AOC is known to be like a fire starter. Absolutely. Whether it's for good or just to be seen. Either way, but the words get out there. Like I said, we're discussing it. A lot of people were discussing the dress, whether it was designed by the girlfriend of a billionaire or not. So that it seemed oxymoronic at first glance, because like, you're taxing the rich, you're saying tax the rich while surrounded by rich people.
Right.
But like, if we say it, the message isn't going to get to the rich people. But if you say it by someone who can't be kicked out, it's definitely going to get to them. Whether anything is done about it or not is a different story, but they are getting the message.
That's deep.
Wow. Yeah. That's a whole different take. Yeah. On it. But that's good. It's good that you have you have takes, and sometimes this bothers me when, I mean, they say it's freedom of speech, but when you express your views, it's almost like you're a hater, or you are this, you get labeled. All these all these kind of things. What do you think about that? Have you gotten, I'm sure from your audience, some people who've listened that might have responded in a way that was surprising. You're just giving your take and now you've been labeled something else.
I've had feedback from people who didn't necessarily agree with something I've said. Mm-hmm. And that is to be expected. I like I said, I don't pretend to be an expert at everything. I don't pretend to be an expert at anything. My whole thing is, I'm not telling you how to think. I'm asking that you do think. And whether we agree or disagree, at least the conversation is being had. However, if there is a difference, like freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence. Freedom of speech is not freedom of retaliation from people. Oh, no, not retaliation. Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence and not freedom of disagreement. Everyone can have an opinion. Not all opinions are valid. Not all opinions have to be like blasted or be disseminated or shared. If you say a tomato is a fruit and I say a tomato is a vegetable, that's a difference of opinion. If you say a tomato is a fruit and I say a tomato is an automobile, we can't go back and forth there. Like, what are we doing? That's what are we doing there? Like, there's what I'm supposed to say, no, you're wrong, or yes, no, that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
But if you say it's a fruit and I say it's a vegetable, I can see where you're coming from because we grew up with it. So a lot of people grew up with it knowing that it's a vegetable. And then
exactly.
And some people like, okay, because of where the seeds are placed, it's a fruit. And yeah, so it's the way when we say difference of opinion, I agree to an extent, but there are levels to how far you should be willing to go. Not every side needs a rebuttal. Not every conversation needs an opposing view. That's the way I see it personally. And I don't believe in conflict, debate for the sake of it, unless there's like an exchange of opinions, or if both of us know you're not going to change, none of our opinions are going to be changed, then that's just theater. And I don't do debate for theater. No.
Yeah. Someone once said, one guy, I think it was on MSNBC, he says, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to the facts. I thought that was a brilliant statement.
Exactly. Yes.
We just lost our tomatoes or vehicle audience. It's a lot of them.
hey, man, you know, it's rough out here. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, so particularly given the time that we are living in, I guess in kind of a post-Trump world where facts don't always matter, like where people, you know, may or may not believe in masks, or may not believe in vaccines, or may not believe in election rigging. Put Joe Biden in office. A lot of things that, you know, we used to be able to hang our hat on and rely on just don't seem to be. So the thing I like about podcasting in general is that there isn't a FCC that's there to like censor what you say and to say, oh, well, you know, you have to comply with what the government standards are, what we want. You're free to have the ability to have all sorts of discussions. But I'm with you. There is a line that has to be drawn, because what we see, if you look on TV, I'm not going to name the channel, but a news channel that's after an animal. If you see what's on that channel, you also see that there is a lot of stuff that is just not factually grounded, because they want to stoke the audience that watches it to action. They want to stoke the audience to do things like January 6th, right? Like they want people to do things or to feel certain ways.
So Jesse, I don't mean to cut you off, but
no problem.
When you mentioned that that news channel, so I don't know if you heard about something that came up where they said, and I quote, they are not a news entity, that they are entertainment.
Oh, really?
So anyone who takes it as news is doing it at their own risk, to the point to the point that I think either with the FCC or one of these like watchdog agencies that said that channel should not be taken as news because they've strayed so far from the facts so many times that they can no longer be considered news. So anyone who like goes to it for news or whatever is doing so at their own peril, because it should let you know how far you strayed when you as a news channel have been legally determined that you no longer are classified as news. So when you brought that up, that people like they've just sunk into it. So that news is in the name of the channel, in name only, not in deed or not in So and that happened pretty recently, where even a top exec said top exec of that network said we should not be considered news. So I just wanted to point that out because misinformation is their name. Like that's basically how they get down, and they're not even pretending anymore.
Wow, no, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I need that memo to go out to all restaurants in the South. This is not a news channel.
But they don't care. That's the thing. They don't care. They don't care. And the ones who do care, they care because they feel like they're bending to the will of the man. So they look for more extreme versions of it. That's how these other fringe media networks have sprung up, where those ones say more outlandish things and contend that they're news.
I think this is Big Sam.
Oh, Big Sam, what's going on, man?
So before we move on, so I received my order. I ordered from. I'm going to share what the website looks like. I ordered from Naija Food Depot last week, and I received my order in the mail yesterday. Actually, in front of my door, just when I went out and came back, and I'm like, oh, pleasant surprise. And then to add to that, I got some pleasant gifts on top, some plantain chips, which I enjoy. Me and my wife enjoyed while she was taking on a. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay. So this is it. You can get all your Ribena, Malta, beads, and all that stuff. Indomie is now only $17.99, and this is the different good stuff: egusi, crayfish.
Oh yeah,
and all that stuff. Yeah, and to my Ghanaian brethren, you can also get the stuff for your shito, all the.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate you supporting and patronizing, because I know when it's funny. So a couple episodes ago, I heard Nkechi mention it, and I'm like, I wasn't even expecting it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to point that out because I was just listening and I heard Naija Food Depot. I'm like, really? Okay. I was like, oh, okay. Like this is free advertising, so I appreciate that. And then I heard like someone mention the plantain chips. I'm like, sure, why not? Like that's for the support. Just put that in there and see if you're a fan of it. And it the way it stuck out to me was the way we've all been conditioned to see each other as competition in whatever regard. But this was someone who just mentioned it because it seemed like the right thing for them to do. I hadn't asked or anything. And it was like, that's the kind of support we need amongst each other, where it's like, whether it costs you something or not, that kind of support goes a long way, because it's now opened up another audience, another group of people who normally wouldn't have heard about it. And I know earlier in that episode as well, there was something about like crabs in a barrel mentality, where we're all seeing like, okay, if I let you go, I'm going to be stuck here. So I'd rather all of us be down here instead of like you getting to safety or whatever. And I guess that's some of that, the remnants of colonialism or racism amongst Black people, or even amongst women. It's a remnant of patriarchy, where they have forced you to see each other as competition, like for that one seat at the table. Meanwhile, you're not even questioning why there's only one seat for you there. So like, I just wanted to point that out and appreciate you guys for even mentioning it in the first place.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about. We want to make sure that everybody, particularly people who look like us, who are doing good stuff, get recognized and get supported. I also am on a personal goal. I want to get rid of this concept of scarcity, because I think that's what's sold to Black people around the world is, oh, it's only this much, or resources are limited, or whatever the case may be. But you've got billionaires who are literally having Thanksgiving for every meal every day. So scarcity is not a true concept. And knowing that we have a global majority, once we are able to get past some of our cultural differences and some of the history, we actually have the buying power to change things. So we need to be focused in where we want to circulate our dollars, who we want to support, and who we want to uplift. So we're happy that you're doing what you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So please support, and then you have your products within a week or within 3 to 5 business days. I hope I'm not saying something that's is beyond your control.
No. Well, that's why we say 3 to 5 business days, because if it's up to us, a lot of it gets done like at that 5-day window. But again, UPS, they act up sometimes, but we have a good working relationship with them. So once we get the items to them, they usually work on them pretty quickly.
Oh, okay. So, and don't say it's expensive, and rather go buy it from somewhere. Buy it from, I'm not going to mention names, but people who don't look alike us and selling our products, and say, because it's 50 cents cheaper or $1 cheaper, so I'll buy it from you. I mean, that's just wrong. I mean, I've had that done to me and had to shut that business down because of that. And we shouldn't be doing that to ourselves. You see, everyone else brings their business to our neighborhoods to come in, get rich, because we have the buying power. We have $1 trillion disposable income as a people. So nobody should say we don't have the buying power. We are not wealthy. We are not this and we are not that. Down. That's just my take again. Like, I haven't told you.
So I agree, but it's complicated in a way because of we have to combat the way things have seemed, or we've been told either by outsiders or by family. And there was something you said earlier about like not even having the fortune or the opportunity or the privilege to be creatives, because a lot of it was get a job that's functional, get a degree, because again of what you said about scarcity, it's like you need to get these things so that these are things that can't be taken away from you. These are things that are tangible, that we've seen how they work and we see how they should work at least. So it's like being an engineer, it might not be the highest paying job, but you're guaranteed to get a job. You might be miserable while you're doing it, but again, it's work. You're not supposed to like it. It's just supposed to pay you so that you can provide for your family. And that's something that we might have thought of as either as gospel, or B, something that's limiting. But the people who gave us that information, that was the best they could pass along at the time, because that's what they knew.
Absolutely.
And the least you can do as a parent is to ensure the survival of your offspring. And you can't teach what you don't know. So that's what they know, and that's what they teach. And it's something that a lot of us have had to come to terms with, where you're thinking about, oh, this is such limiting information, but it's the information they had. It would be a different thing if they just didn't tell us anything, but I'm sure that would be a different conversation that we'd complain about. But they told us what they know, and they passed along what they thought was best. And again, the opportunities for like entrepreneurship are a lot limited for us, because as Africans, a lot of our economy is cash based. You want to buy a house, you need to have the money for the house to put it down, and you get the house. While that is good in terms of ownership, where it's like immediately can't be taken away from you, it gives you this attitude of, I cannot proceed until I have every step down. So I have to have 1 through 10 down. I have to have it, then I proceed. Meanwhile, other people are operating off of leverage of debt, of credit, off information, off relationships. And we are cut off literally from all of those things. Your credit, you're getting subprime loans, relationships. They're cutting you out of universities where you can learn these things. That's what literally brought about the formation of HBCUs. It's like a seat at the table. You're being pushed out because they know what that information is worth. Again, when one person gets it, you see everybody else as competition. So that even the information that's being passed along, it's being funneled to a very select few. So now that information is getting out, more people are seeing that the way we see debt as a taboo. We see debt as a bad word. We see credit as a bad word. It's like I'm not even getting a credit card, or I'm paying off that credit card immediately and I'm not doing anything. Meanwhile, our peers are leveraging their debt, they're leveraging their credit to like larger amounts to borrow and buy property or whatever. Meanwhile, we're thinking that we have to have the entire amount or the typical 20% down payment. And like, who has the time or money to save up 20% in a booming housing economy when that 20% for the same house has doubled in like the last year and a half? Meanwhile, other people are just like expanding their portfolios because they know how to leverage their credit. They have a 700, 800 credit score, and now they have like 5 multi-family houses, and now they've already paid back most of their loan just off of that without anything leaving their own accounts. And it seems like I know a lot of us are going in the right direction because a lot of people are trying to test the waters, but it's something that is very scary because, again, by doing, or by others doing and them sharing their information with you. And but that's how I see it. I'm not even into the whole real estate thing yet, but it's something that I'm very interested in because it's like, there are people, I'm not even saying I'm the smartest person. There are people that I know aren't smarter than me doing this. So the only thing holding me back is basically the information and just a seat at the table or knowing where the table is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and that's 100% true. And I also, just put my little endorsement for home ownership in. Just so you all know, if you are paying rent, you're paying somebody else's mortgage anyway. Just know that. If right now, what he was talking about as far as the 20% down is important because sometimes you look at it as debilitating. You say it's 20%. I'll never get that much money. It's going to take me 5-6 years to work to stack up what I need to stack up. The problem is the housing markets are hot now. So what you don't want is to finally get that 20% over the course of 4 to 5 years. But now the house costs double what it was when you first started. It's better to get in. If you have the privilege and the ability to get in now to own something, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and do it. You may not have all the answers as far as how do I operate a multifamily unit? How do I rent? How do I be a landlord? They got books for that, right? You figure that out later. Get the property now, because if you don't do it, somebody who doesn't look like you is going to do it, and then you're going to be paying them rent, okay?
Right.
So that's very important. I also think, just collectively, you're so right about the information that we need to disseminate to all of us. There is a mentality, I think, that when people have put in the work to go to school and to get certain credentials and work in certain industries, they feel like, I'm the man. I want to enjoy my time as the man, and I don't need to share my information. The problem is you could be the best general surgeon in the world, but the best general surgeon in the world is still going to need a lawyer. It's still going to need an engineer. It's still going to need somebody to fix their car. Still going to need other things, and you can't do it all, right?
Right.
So it's better for us as a community if we all go up, we all select what our strengths are, we all pursue the things that we want, and we find creative ways to collaborate and share that information to elevate. Because the one thing that everybody knows about me is I don't go to white people for anything. I don't have a white dentist. I can't trust it. It's been documented, historical struggles, reasons why I can't trust. But for the people who are there, I always like to encourage other folks to go to the folks who serve me as well, because I feel like we have to. We don't have the luxury of being able to check out and just be on an island by ourselves because they'll come burn your island down. So it's important for us to build this. And I think this has to be, it doesn't even have to just be locally. It can start locally, but it has to be something international. I think people like growing up in America, you don't realize some of the opportunities you have because you're in such close proximity. And you also don't realize the community support that other people have in other places, right? And so everything from the time you're born is go get it, go get it, go get it. Don't worry about everybody else. Go get it, go get it. And either you do it and you're successful, or you can't figure it out and you're not successful. But we have to have a global view. We have to say we got a bigger family than this. There are people who are doing it differently. There are people whose life philosophy is different, and be willing to adjust and sometimes humble yourself to understand what needs to be done. So I like all of this. I think this conversation, this is what people need. This is the stuff that's going to get us banned when the CIA starts.
You're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah, some of these conversations are necessary, and then the other thing I'll add to that is along those lines, when a lot of us have people managing our retirements for us. Whereas with the same investment tools, you can also read on them and, open other. I mean, if you have a 401k, you could open extra Roth, and and Roth is more tax advantage. But the same index funds that are used for your retirement, you can use buy them for your own Roth. The information is out there. When within a year you could. Or maybe 10 years, you could match what you have in your retirement. So definitely the information is out there. So let's not shy away from it. Then it's not gambling. Because if you say that's gambling, then you'd be hypocritical, because then you're gambling your future away in your retirement. Because I've heard that before, in our community, where that the stock market is gambling. Anyway, that's just...
I think, it's good that you brought that up real quick, because I think the conversation for a while was emphasis on saving, and that was good for a while until you realize just how low like the interest rates were on savings accounts. Yes. So now it's like even at the most like outlandish interest rate would still be like in the decimals. And like, yeah, I'm just giving the bank an interest-free loan. That's what that is. So now I think more people who have the money to put in like a savings account are now seeing that it's more fruitful to put it even in like a self-managed IRA, whether it's a Roth or traditional, or just maxing whatever your employer offers in terms of a 401k, because that's like the effect of compounding interest, like it over time. Just by a consistent contribution to that account, all you've put in might have been $50,000 over a 10 or 15-year span, but under the right circumstances, it could be times 10 that.
Yeah,
and that's exactly. That's not even like anything crazy. That's that's just typically the way it works. But again, it's information that we didn't have passed along to us. So we're getting this information a lot later, which is why there are other people who are farther ahead, because they not only had the head start in terms of capital and opportunity, but the information as well. So we've been cut off from all three facets: capital, opportunity, and for information. So it's like now that we might not have the same opportunity and the same capital, but now we have a lot of times the same access to the information, and that's something we should be passing along.
Absolutely. So you didn't even know you were going to be talking about compound interest today.
I did not think about that when I woke up this morning. No, but here we are.
That's one thing Albert Einstein said. The scientist was endorsing compound interest. Said the seventh wonder of the world is compound interest. Albert Einstein said that, not Fred Nontra.
Albert was a pretty smart guy. He definitely was.
Yeah. Okay, so if you haven't done so already, please do so on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel. Like this video. Like our other content. Go on our Facebook page. Like our Facebook page. And then if don't worry, we don't bite. If you want to be on the show, you're in your corner and you want to discuss, we're gonna let you on. Don't feel intimidated. Like you could tell, both me and Toju are kind of, we don't take over. You're not take over personalities. We haven't go into a room.
Not at all.
Like my co-host Jesse, who's who's the fire starter. But you'll be surprised how much is inside you. You've learned all these things. You started your business in some corner somewhere, even if it's Alaska. Please come on. Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Juno.
Yeah, and then if you haven't done so, also we have t-shirts on spreadshirt.com, like Pan-Africana t-shirts. It's getting cold, the hoodies and sweatshirts on there. So by all means, go and buy yourself a dope one. And when you do so, please take a selfie and send it to us so we can
tag us.
Promote it. Tag us on Instagram. Our Instagram is at Pan-Africana Show, and on YouTube is Pan-Africana Presents Afriscope. On Facebook is Pan-Africana Present Afriscope. And now this is where we let our guests give their info, and I'm going to hand it over to our resident attorney to give a disclaimer.
So first and foremost, I need everybody watching to do three things. Thing number one, everything that Fred just said. Thing number two, also make sure that you're subscribing to the Well Actually podcast, because we want to support our people. Thing number three, get something from the Food Depot. we gave y'all a website. Make sure you order something. All right. So with all that said, we are getting ready to allow our brother to reveal information on how to contact him. Now, I'm not going to speak for him, but I will say that generally what people want is professional inquiries only, right? This is not the time for people to pull up. Now, I don't know. You might want to ask him. He might feel differently.
I feel like Diana Taurasi.
I don't know. I mean, if you Sanaa Lathan and you pulling up watching the show, who am I to stop love? But I'm just saying, professional inquiries only. Okay, thank you. All right, brother, can you tell us what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so I think in the interest of everybody, I think keeping it professional will be the best way to go. So yeah, for me, the best way to get in touch is either by I haven't been on Twitter in a while. I'm trying to watch the way I intake information. Absolutely. So it's like, but my Twitter and my IG are the same. Black Bauer. That's BLAKKBAUER. Yeah, because that's BAUER. And that's a play on Jack Bauer from my favorite TV show, 24. We didn't even get to talk about TV shows. Yeah. So that you got it. Yeah. So, but for the podcast, it's the Well Actually Pod. That's IG and Facebook. On Twitter, it's the WA Pod. So it's like, in case anyone wants to be a guest, they want to come through.
So I sent it to the private chat.
Yes.
I sent to a private chat. Is that how it is?
Yes, that's it.
Oh, okay. Then,
yeah. So, and of course, Naija Food Depot is just Naija Food Depot everywhere. Just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's what we're trying to, like, I haven't been on top of it in terms of posting, but it's like getting a lot of information about whether it's the podcast or about new products, just inquiries. Even if there's a product you don't see on there and you want, that's always a way for you to get across to us and let us know that you're interested in something, and we see if we can get it for you.
Yeah, man, because I gotta try Kelly Welly because everybody who comes on here is talking about Kelly Welly. So so I feel like I'm the odd man out. I haven't had it.
Wait, is that made out of peanuts or what's that one?
I think Nigeria. Oh no, Killer Willy, Nigeria. What do you call it? The fried plantain, spice fried plantain.
Oh yeah. So the plantain. What is it's not the plantain chips. Or it's something.
No, the fried one that's spice. You know, like it's chopped into little pieces and then fried. Oh, that's the name.
Are you sure it's not
Someone
dodo?
came here on. Dodo, I think it's dodo. Yeah.
Dodo. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's probably dodo. If it's fried plantain, slightly salted, yeah, dodo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's it. Don't worry. When Jesse, you visit me in California, or maybe when we meet in Ghana maybe next year, we'll definitely make some for you.
Yes, I'm down to try.
Okay. So, any other questions we haven't heard from our man Michael today?
Wait, I have a question for Jesse though.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Okay, so like my thing is TV shows for the most part. And I saw something you posted on Facebook about the new Wonder Years show.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of things that I discuss are about like the depiction of Black people in media.
Absolutely.
And you had a pretty hot take that if you were not with it, you're just simply racist.
Oh no. I was following
like just come out and say it. Like if you're not with it, and I was like, damn.
So I've been blessed in my life and in my career to live essentially like I feel like 3 different lives. And now in my workspace, I'm almost always surrounded by whiteness. And there are a lot of people when when the advertisements start coming out for the new Wonder Years, they were hurt. And I was trying to analyze the hurt. So for some people, they were just married to Fred Savage and the cult classic from back in the day. But this don't have nothing to do with Fred Savage. And the only thing that is similar is they took the same name of the show. It's a whole new concept, right? So I'm like, okay, maybe. But a lot of people were giving me all kinds of lip service or going and posting Facebook messages about, oh, they're trying to ruin America. They're trying to ruin America from a TV show that hadn't even come out yet. So you can't say you don't like it because it hasn't come out yet. So I'm like, well, I wonder what the root of this is. And the more I thought about it, I was like, this is painfully obvious. People just don't want to see a family show about Black folks, particularly if mom's not on crack and dad's not in jail. They don't want to see it. So I said, I want to give this show all of the attention that I can possibly give it. I want to promote it. And I want to see the first episode because just because it's got all those criteria that I like doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good, right? So I want to look at it and see. And I was pleasantly surprised by the first episode because, one, if you're talking Black people in America in 1968, you're dealing with issues. So I was like, it's ABC, they're going to try to skirt around it. But no, episode 1, we got the assassination of Martin Luther King and the impact of that on the Black community. And I was like, wow, they won, right? We're just going there. So far, I've liked what I've seen. I like the family dynamic. I don't like the friend that was making out with the guy's girl at the end. I don't appreciate that at all. But either way, man, I think it has a lot of promise. And I think Black people, we've been looking for kind of our Wonder Years because everybody likes Wonder Years. Like Black people used to watch Wonder Years. We get it. But we've been looking for our story to be told on American television through the eyes of someone who is going to be received and not people who are just going to try to run you off and take you off the TV. So I'm excited about it. Hopefully it meets the hype that I have placed on it. But yeah, at least for us, I think it's every Wednesday, 8:30, ABC and on Hulu.
So can I give you a few just a little bit of my take on it?
Sure, absolutely.
Because like first of all, I'm a big fan of Dule Hill. Like he's the main character. He was in Psych. He was in Ballers on HBO. Yep. So he's a really funny dude.
Absolutely.
So when you say we don't have our Wonder Years, first of all, like I kind of feel like everybody hates Chris kind of like filled that lane to a maybe to a lesser extent, because it was meant to be comedy.
Right.
Was like you can express some pain through comedy,
Right.
but the thing about this is, why did they have to go with the Wonder Years name? Because all it's going to do is elicit comparison to the first one. And that one, it was the reason why it was set in the 60s, because it came out in the 80s. So they wanted 20 years back.
Right.
So I thought maybe if they were going to do like a Wonder Years according to that theme, we'd get something maybe 20 years back from now, or even in the 90s. So there might have been like a little bit of, are they really going to show us Black plight in the 60s? And like you said, like, is it going to be unvarnished? Are they going to like water it down for ABC? Is it going to, but like, based on what you said, like, no, they really went there. But it's like, are those our Wonder Years? Like, because when the original, they were looking back at that time with fondness. Is there anybody who can say they're looking back on the 60s with fondness, except maybe the Jackson 5? Like, who, like, is there anyone?
Yeah, I think the way that they do it is it presents it so that I would say it's probably an 80-20 split. So 80% of it is fondness. And then once you're comfortable and happy that kids from both races are playing a baseball game together, then they hit you with the news report, right? and to me, it's like that's quintessential. I feel like that's quintessential Black American experience, right?
Okay,
it's never going to be 100%.
Right, you're right
you
about
might
that.
get 80, and then they're going to hit you with a strong 20, right? Like, real quick. I also know that a lot of those events in the 60s are what kind of, I like this time frame, because you can already see in the way that they've written each character, mom, dad, sister, the older brother who's already gone in Vietnam, and the youngest child. You can already see there's going to be different perspectives. So the sister, when she got the news report, she went and she grabbed Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice. She's going to be a radical. She's going to go Black Panther. And you want to see that. We haven't seen that yet.
Gotcha.
Mom and dad are just trying to take care of their kids and raise their kids as best as they know how. So you're going to see that. I'm curious to see what the main character is going to be all about. But I also know 60s and 70s we don't cover. And to your point, as far as Everybody Hates Chris, I thought Everybody Hates Chris was a great show, but he did make sure that he sprinkled in like the impact of substance abuse on the Black community and racism with his teacher, who used to always love Black men, but for some reason hate Black people. So, like, he sprinkles that in. That's our 20 for him. But the 80 was like how, and that's kind of my generation, where you can remember how it used to be when everybody kind of talked to each other and looked out for each other's kids and was about things, until the policing and substance abuse and all this stuff came into the community and destroyed it, on top of the poverty that was already kind of there in some spots. So I think it's a good look back, because America doesn't like to deal with the past. America doesn't like to deal with anything pre-1983. If it's before 1983, they don't want to touch it.
Nope.
But by going to 1968, I knew Martin Luther King assassination was coming. I was braced, but I'm thinking season finale. I'm thinking episode right. We just coming in like
we're coming in hot.
Yeah, we coming in hot. So there's going to be a lot of spinoff and the riots that follow that and all that stuff. That's coming. But I also think it's important for people to understand what Black people in America have had to go through. And you have to sanitize those conversations for the purpose of Disney, ABC, whatever. But if there's a way to do it that is still not going to ostracize people who are interested in watching, I think they can. It's not going to be the same as Fred Savage, whom we all love. Because I do think Fred Savage in the 60s that he's talking about was like rock and roll. And like he's talking about being in love with the girl next door. And like we can all relate to that. That's relatable. But I think being Black in America, you have those white experiences that are kind of American. And then you have, but you Black though, right? That's the 80-20. You Black though. Like you can't be where Fred Savage is because the police are coming.
Right. You're right about that. So I have one last question on it.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel to the people who say, why not just create like a different show rather than rebooting the Wonder Years then?
I get the sense, just given the amount of time that we've not seen something like this on TV, that creating your own show doesn't provide the proper vehicle for whatever major network to put it out. I think people have submitted show ideas, but I think it doesn't go anywhere. I think people buy in at the executive table when it says the Wonder Years, because they're thinking, oh, Fred Savage, Wendy, the girl next door. Like that's what they're thinking.
It's easier to sell. It's easier to sell.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like the way media has gone, their originality is less and less. There's a lot more content, but a lot less original content.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to get your take on that. Like, how did you feel like if they had just named it like 1968 or just any other title, like it probably wouldn't have gotten made in the first place.
It wouldn't be on ABC.
And it wouldn't be on ABC. Yeah.
Be on BET, TV One.
Yeah, or Centric, or was that?
Centric, yes. And no shade to them, but I also think there's a production quality for the big networks, the NBCs, ABCs,
absolutely.
And there's also viewership because those things go international. Well, I shouldn't say international. There's I have a friend of mine in Australia who says it didn't come to Australia, but
not even on Hulu.
Not even on Hulu. It is going to be on Disney International, but I think they have a 2-week delay on Disney International. Yeah, so shout out to Australia, but if you're watching there, it's coming.
Tell your friend to get a VPN.
Yes. Jailbroken Fire Sticks, VPNs, you know. I can't say who got it, but I'm just saying.
Hey, I mean, it's out there. It's on YouTube. That's what I'm gonna say.
Absolutely. But I want to tell in this to say, this is why I support creativity really amongst our people. This is why I support it, because there was a really good show that they had dropped. It was a GoFundMe that they had dropped to try to get people to pay so they could do a bigger production, but they gave us a snippet. And it was insight into what it was like for someone who I think his parents were African, but he was first generation American, similar to the Wonder Years, right? It's a child and it's through the child's eyes. And I swear that clip was so hilarious. Like just talking about how the getting adjusted to America and the emphasis on like making sure you bring home A's and the consequences of not bringing home A's, like the whole thing about it. And everybody, I was like, man, I got to put money towards this. It was well done. It was filmed well. It was written well, perfectly. It never saw the light of day. Never got anywhere.
Not even on YouTube?
Nowhere. But what did come out of it is right after this whole push to fund that show, we get the Goldbergs and Fresh Off the Boat. So it's like people took that concept and were able to expand it for other cultures that the executive table was able to push and America would accept, right? So my thing is, it's definitely some picking and choosing at networks that we don't largely own and control, but the impact of things like how much money Black Panther made as a movie has opened doors of creativity to an extent. We haven't taken over to be able to say this is our new agenda and this is what we're going to put out. But they are saying, well, it did make a lot of money, right? So
they understand that.
Money,
they understand
and
that.
Opportunities. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm not going to ask any Black Panther follow-ups because I know you guys got time limits because that is a topic I could talk about. But yeah,
Oh yeah, we can bring you back on, man. I love Black Panther.
Yeah, but so you can invest in the TV One. It's the ticker symbol. Now I'm gonna start giving ticker symbols. Oh my
have them
goodness!
Scrolling across the bottom. TV One Centric.
Yes.
UONEK. So UONEK. TV One. UONEK. I bought it when it was $1. Now it's almost $7. So.
Look at you, Wolf of Wall Street over here.
Yeah, so you can support our own that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So this is where we draw the curtain on our show. Thanks for joining us, spending your afternoon, your morning with us. evening. That's if you live in Ghana or Nigeria or in the UK. Oh, actually, is it tomorrow yet in some parts of the world? I guess
Probably
Maybe the
parts of
Philippines.
Asia. Yeah.
Asia, yeah.
Shout out
if you
Desire.
watch it, yeah. Desire, if you're watching where's Desire is in Philippines, it's probably tomorrow or the Sunday already. So thanks for joining us. Have a good weekend, everybody. And we'll have our guests behind the scenes. All right,
All right.
take care.
Thank you guys for having me.
Not a problem. Any last words? Maybe.
Subscribe to the Well Actually podcast. Check out NaijaFoodDepot.com. Yeah, we're just here.
Okay.
We're just here to make it happen. That's all.
That's all. Well, can't you say we should wash our hands?
She's saying this after the tomatoes or vehicles population has dropped off of the.
Okay, so as Ife
Ife.
says, loving is gone.
Oh, I went to high school with him.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for joining us, Ife. Thanks for joining us. I hope you subscribe, and we'll be seeing you in the future. All right. Bye, everyone.